All right, thank you, everybody. Aloha, my name is Chris Gallagher. Welcome to the Hawaii Department of Transportation's 2023 Protect Our Water Conference. I will be your in-person moderator for this morning sessions titled Harbor's Construction and Post-Construction Programs at a Glance. This session is streamed concurrently to our virtual conference platform. At the end of the presentation, the speaker will have a few minutes to answer your questions. If any virtual attendees have questions, please use the Q&A section during the presentation to ask any questions you may have. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our speaker for this session. Zhang is the environmental engineer at HDOT Harbor's Engineering Branch Environmental Section. She is primarily responsible for developing and implementing comprehensive environmental compliance programs to satisfy the Harbor's requirements for compliance with state and federal laws, as well as department policies. Please help me in welcoming Joy. Good morning, Joy.
Right. Thank you, Chris, for the introduction. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining this session with me. And a successful program cannot be parted with each and everyone's support and positive participation. And through this session, we will review the major requirement of Harbor's construction and post-construction programs in terms of stormwater management. And take this as a caveat that we will be sharing a lot of information here. So I will try my best to finish this session on time. Oh, got it. Okay. All right. When a construction project commences in place, pretty sure you have been told so many times, or you have spotted language like this. Please ensure that the BMP is being properly implemented to minimize or prevent the potential pollutants from entering the state waters. But why? Besides regulatory requirement, we all know that clean water is of vital importance to our own use, as well as to the fishing and the tourism industries. Moreover, it is our responsibility to protect the wildlife, including many only found here in Hawaii. And to continue to sustain in this world, we need to do our part to ensure that our coastal waters are clean for every living being to enjoy. Okay, here's the agenda for this session, and we will start with the basic regulatory requirement and definitions, and then we will go through the project process at Harbor's. And in particular, we will discuss in depth about Harbor's construction site runoff control program and some common findings during our own inspections. Last but not the least, we will ride through Harbor's post-construction program requirement and share some popular post-construction BMP options. The basics. So here is a quick rundown of our basic regular requirement at Harbor's, which include, of course, the Clean Water Act and also the related TFR by feds. And Hawaii Administrative Rules 11-54 and 11-55, and also those related HRS, and the 3 NPDES NOI-key permit Harbor's need to comply to as of today. And these regs and permits are the primary drivers for Harbor's stormwater management program, also known as a SWAMP. The NPDES permit issued to Harbor's requires the development, implementation, and the enforcement of our own SWAMP, covering the 6 minimum pillars listed on these slides. So for today's training or sessions, we will be focusing on construction site runoff control and the post-construction stormwater management for new development and redevelopment. And both program manuals are available online at this website shows here. And below is just a snippet from our website listing the menus, the checklists, the forms, and the BMP plan templates tailored just for Harbor's construction and post-construction program. So how exactly can a construction activity potentially impact the environment? So impact can occur when stormwater runoff carries pollutants from construction site to nearby storm drains or waterways. And once the stormwater has entered the storm drain system, it flows and discharges directly to the adjoining state waters, for example, Honolulu Harbor. Therefore, it is essential to manage and mitigate the contact of rainwater with the potential sources of pollutants before they enter the storm conveyance system. So one potential source of pollutants is from what we classify as an illicit discharge, which is defined here as in any non-storm water discharge that poses a risk to the environment. An easy way to remember this is that only rain in the drain. And the picture on this slide provides some examples of illicit discharge that should be eliminated, such as oil spills creating the sheen on the water and the washed paint product, sediment, etc. Some common pollutants from a construction site can include the sediment from soil erosion and excavation, vehicle fluids from the equipment parked on site, chemicals and aggregates stored on site, and also the waste from a portable toilet, concrete washout, and littering. Sediment is one of the most common pollutants found in our waterways, and it can be generated through surface soil erosion in situ or any in situ soil excavation. If not properly contained, sediment may fill up storm drains and catch basins, which are designed to minimizing localized flooding by diverting stormwater away from roadways or ground surface. And it brings excessive nutrients from this, from the sediment, and which can increase the growth of algae. And it can also cause the water to become turbid and preventing the sun ray from reaching coral and reducing oxygen levels, which can impact the marine life. So if your project would disturb 1 acre or more, or is part of a larger common plan of development or sale, it is very likely that your project would be subject to an NPDES permit program requirement, which is administered by DOH Clean Water Branch. HAR 11-55 Appendix C outlined the requirement for regulated construction sites. So please keep in mind that all NPDES regulated construction projects under Harbor's jurisdiction are not only subject to DOH inspection, but also subject to Harbor's construction site runoff control inspection program. All right, starting this slide, we'll be brushing through some project forming and execution processes at Harbors. And the typical project, doesn't matter is a CIP or SMP project, will generally follow the process shown on this slide, which include project scoping, design, review, construction, and then followed by long-term O&M. We will be revealing this in more details in the next few slides, with a focus on environmental, especially stormwater management requirement. So during a project design phase, the scope of a project will be finalized by the design engineers, and the relevant environmental requirement will be assessed and identified. And when necessary, a pre-design meeting will be held. In all permits and applicable Harbors forms should be completed by the design engineer. So for our non-exempt project that is less than 1 acre, the design engineer would need to complete the notification forms for project less than 1 acre and the related BMP plan. And the project subject to NPDES NOIC permit requirement. In addition to the NPDES applications, the design engineers would need to complete a construction site design review checklist, a post-construction BMP plan checklist, and the post-construction stormwater mitigation plan if applicable. And all these forms can be found on Harbor's stormwater management website. Following the completion of the design phase, the project will then go out for a bid through public solicitation process. Following the selection, then the construction contractor would then work on updating and finalizing the sweep or a site-specific BMP plans and based on the requirement in the specification and upon their construction means and methods. The updated sweep or the site-specific BMP plan shall be submitted to Harbor's construction project manager or engineer for review. And upon acceptance and approval, the contractor can start the installation of the BMP mirrors prior to the start of any other, more intrusive works. If a project is about 1 acre or more and required a NPDES permit, the sweep need to be, prepared, fulfilling the requirement of HAR 11-55 Appendix C as well. And we do have a template for both the sweep and also a site-specific BMP plan, which can be found on Harbor's stormwater website. And using this template can help you navigate through the plan preparation much easier, straightforward, and efficient. BMPs are required to be implemented during the construction phase in order to minimize the impact to the environment. So what is a BMP? BMP, best management practice. It can be a structural device or a system or a procedure practices, such as a stabilized construction entrance and a regular sweeping to remove the accumulated sediment, such as install a fabric filter or drain cover seal at the storm drain inlet and burn using biosocks to minimize the potential pollutants from discharging directly into the drain. Keep in mind that the storm drain protection is usually considered the last line of defense, so additional BMPs should be implemented to assist in preventing an illicit discharge from occurring. So Harbor has adopted the City County Honolulu's BMP manual for construction, which provides information about the design detail that should be followed. And any applicable BMPs from high-risk construction BMP manual are acceptable as well. And the BMP listed here just some of the examples. So if you are working on roadway paving or repair project, please ensure to implement the BMPs listed on these slides and the next, such as do not pave when the rain is forecasted. You want to burn up all your storm drains and manholes, and you want to prevent the discharge of release agencies to the drain system. And also you do not want to overload the trucks, and you want to minimize the airborne dust by using a water spray, and the list can go on and on. Next, we will discuss Harbor's stormwater BMP inspections as well as Harbor's expectations during active construction phase. The Harbor Stormwater Management Program requires the inspections of a non-exempt construction site. So these inspections are conducted to identify the potential or any active discharge of pollutants and to ensure the deficiencies are corrected to stay in compliance and to avoid being cited by the regulatory agency. And all Harbor's inspections include initial, recurring, and final inspections to be conducted by qualified inspectors. The initial inspection will be conducted after all applicable BMPs have been installed, and any deficiencies or potential violations are noted during this inspection must be corrected before the contractor can commence any further ground intrusive activities. Once the construction work has started, Harbors will conduct a recurring inspection for the duration of the project. And this will occur once every 2 weeks during the wet season, which is from October through March, and once every 2 months from April to September, which we consider the dry season. I know for this year it's very unusual. We've been experiencing a very dry, weather is even, we're stepping into the month of November. So all the deficiencies and the potential violations noted during these inspections may lead to enforcement actions if not corrected promptly. And a copy of the inspection report will be furnished to the contractor within 5 calendar days. And the final inspection will occur once construction work is completed and the site is permanently stabilized. At the same time, this inspection will also serve to ensure that the permanent BMPs are properly installed per specification. Deficiencies and potential violations noted during any final inspections must be corrected prior to the completion of the project. And the final payment can be withheld until all corrective actions are completed. So Harbor does exempt certain types of project from inspections. So this project usually bring minimal impact to the environment, such as some minor land disturbance on a single lot, like simple just a pole or post, sign, or fencing installation, any utility repair works, or a paved surface repair, and also some other repair and maintenance activities. In the following slide, we will be discussing some common findings noted from Harbor's inspection in the past. BMPs are not available or updated timely. So the BMP plan would provide a basic information about your site, and it identifies which BMPs are planned to be implemented on the job site. It should be promptly updated when necessary and must be kept on site or at an easily accessible locations to make it readily available for on-site workers or inspectors. Make sure to obtain the project engineer's approval prior to updating your plan. Stabilize the construction entrance. The tracking of a sediment onto the adjacent public road is something that is easily visible both to the inspectors and also to the public, and can become a source of airborne dust and can become a nuisance and can easily be carried into the nearby storm drain if not cleaned up promptly. Therefore, it is important that the construction entrance have a proper BMP installed and maintained regularly and when needed. So in general, the stabilized construction entrance should be consist a minimum of 50 by 30 feet and covers with 3 to 6 inches of a diameter aggregate over a geotextile fabric, and maintenance may need to be conducted regularly throughout the life of the project. Silt fences can be used to control the sediment from a construction site. However, they must be properly installed and maintained. If not well maintained, sediment may be carried off-site and result in an illicit discharge. So generally speaking, the silt fence should be properly installed and maintained by setting the post on the downstream side of the fence every 6 to 8 feet. And the fabric should be stretched tight, and the fence should be embedded in the ground approximately 6 inches to secure the bottom of the fence. The goal of the silt fence is to hold sediment-laden waters so that to keep the sedimentation behind the fence. Maintenance will be required to remove accumulated sediment on the silt fence when it reached like 1/3 of the height of the barrier. The picture at the top shows how deteriorated compost biosolids can actually contribute to pollutants if not repaired promptly. Some basic rules using biosolids to burn your job site include make sure you're placing it on ground and make sure it is in close contact with the ground surface. An end of the socks must overlap a minimum of 6 inches, and the end of the berm should be turned up the slope to aid in containing the sediment. And accumulated sediment must be removed when it reaches 1/3 of the height of the berm, and replace and repair the damaged one promptly. Erosion control matting can be used on a site to stabilize the disturbed soil until the vegetation can be established. So geotextile must have full contact with the ground surface in order to be truly effective. And this may require the removal of large rocks or some other obstructions and the leveling of the ground. The mat must also be properly anchored, and this involves trenching in the mat at least 6 inches at the top of the slope and overlapping sections of mat by 2 to 3 inches and stapling mat every 3 feet. Filter fabric can be used to contain the potential runoff pollutants and prevent them from discharging into a storm drain system. And this is considered the last line of defense in terms of pollution prevention. And a common finding during inspections is that the inlet fabric filter displaced or in a deteriorated condition. And contractors should be conducting frequent inspection to ensure that any tore or filter fabrics are replaced and the accumulated debris is removed promptly. Saw cutting of a concrete will generate dust and fine particles that can be easily carried away in stormwater runoff. And in the instance pictured here, the construction workers were conducting saw cutting operations without using a vacuum system to collect the fine materials for proper disposal. And you can see the dust just spraying out of the vacuum. And all concrete wash waters must be properly contained. This can be accomplished by designating a container on site and removing the debris once the water has evaporated. And in addition, a cover may need to be added over the container when rain is forecasted to prevent the container wastewater from overflowing. It is important to note that the containment may only be filled up to 75% capacity, and the temporary concrete washout facilities should be maintained to provide adequate holding capacity with a minimum of freeboard of 4 inches for above grade facilities and 12 inch for below grade facilities. Spills and vehicle leaks are a common source of pollutants on the concrete site. Vehicles and equipment should be regularly checked. And if a leak is observed, ensure a drip pans will be promptly utilized. And all construction workers should be trained on a proper spill response. Spill kit must be kept on site and be properly stocked. And the spills should be immediately reported to Harbor's project manager or engineer and other regulatory agency if exceeded the reporting threshold. Stockpiles of aggregate materials must be properly contained if they are to be stored for more than a day. And in addition, the stockpile should be positioned away from the waterways or any storm drains. Improper disposal of paint waste and the painting equipment cleanup can also introduce pollutants to the storm water as well. And the proper containment, such as a tarp, should be set up in place to contain any paint drips and chips. And please mix and store paint within the secondary containment and dispose of the paint waste properly. And the hazardous materials must be stored properly on site. And in particular, and for any of the liquid containers of 55 gallons above, and you should provide a secondary containment. And they should also be inspected regularly to ensure they're in good conditions. And it's highly recommended that for all the hazardous materials, they be stored in the covered areas to minimize its exposure to the stormwater. And shown on these slides are some common findings related to housekeeping and waste management. Trash and debris throughout the site can be picked up by the stormwater and carried to the adjacent harbors. And make it a regular practice at your site to clean up the debris at the end of each working day. When it comes to solid waste management, some of the good practice include, you want to remove the debris regularly and make sure you place them in watertight dumpsters and make sure you empty the dumpster regularly. And you probably want to segregate the hazardous waste away from the recycled item as well. Throughout the construction phase, enforcement actions can be implemented where necessary to ensure corrective actions be completed. Enforcement will reference the harbor swamp, construction contract document, HRS, and HAR. Once a regulatory agency such as a DOH begins their enforcement, there may be specific penalties associated with each violation that are compounded each day the violation occurred. The potential for penalties shown on this slide can be avoided if all parties working on the construction project follow the requirement in Harbor's construction program and implement the appropriate BMPs. All right, Harbor's post-construction program. So it is considered a complementary component of its construction site runoff control program. And through the next few slides, we will discuss the requirement while providing guidance for project-specific planning, selection, and the designing of a post-construction BMPs to fulfill the NPDES permit and Harbor's swamp requirement. Post-construction BMPs are of equal importance because they will continue to address the potential stormwater pollutants long after construction project has been completed. Another important thing is that if you do include the post-construction BMPs, it should be coupled with the operation and maintenance manual or plan to ensure that it continue to function effectively for the life of its intended use. Post-construction BMPs must be considered and evaluated for a project disturbing land of 1 acre or more. And there are some exceptions, however, which include project mainly involving, maintenance activities, re-roofing project, interior renovations, and just a replacement of damaged pavement. The design engineers would submit a permanent post-construction BMP plan checklist and a post-construction stormwater mitigation plan to Harbor's environmental section for review. The post-construction stormwater mitigation plan, or PSMP, begins by completing an existing drainage study of the area, and the designer then identifying source of potential stormwater pollutants that may be present during the regular site use and following the completion of the construction. The designers would also include the drainage study, chemical or potential pollutants or concerns, and also a discussion on selected post-construction BMPs that will address this particular concern. And once all this information is gathered, and they will compile into a PSMP. So that this table provides some guidance on the type of potential pollutants that can be expected based on the land use. For example, if a project is involving a construction of a container yard and the post-construction BMPs to be installed would be able to remove the sediment, oil and grease, and some dissolved metals if applicable to the site use. And the types of post-construction BMPs are divided into 3 main categories, namely the low-impact development, which must be considered and evaluated first, followed by source control BMPs, and if either are not feasible, and treatment control BMPs must be evaluated. LID involves retaining stormwater runoff at the site, and treating it as a source rather than a waste. And some examples including, preserving the vegetated areas or collecting runoff from roofed areas for watering. The goals for source control is to prevent potential pollutants from contacting stormwater, such as covering a vehicle or equipment maintenance area. And the treatment control attempts to remove the potential pollutants from the runoff. And this includes BMPs like a hydrodynamic separator. Designers could refer to City County Honolulu's guidance when developing the PSMP, in particular stormwater BMP guide and the rules relating to storm drainage standard. And as a rule of thumb, volume-based BMPs must capture 1 or 1.5 inch of stormwater, and for flow-based BMPs must capture and treat 0.5 inch of the rainwaters per hour. In the next few slides, we'll be sharing some common permanent BMPs you can spot throughout the state. The first one, conserve the natural areas, soils, and vegetations. And this BMP shown here is only practical in areas where there is existing vegetation, and it should be marked off during the construction if practical. And bioswales meet the objective of both retaining the stormwater on site and also providing the treatment. A bioswale consists of a channel where stormwater is directed and then infiltrated into the ground, and hereby reducing the quantities of stormwater discharge. In addition, vegetation in these channels can be effective at removing pollutants that may be present in the discharge. And usually it's placed along the street and the parking lot where stormwater need to be drained from, and it can also support the vegetation growth. Planter box. There are bio-retention treatment control measures that can be paired with an impermeable structures connected to an under drain. The box can be comprised of a variety of materials such as brick or concrete, and filled with gravel at the bottom, and planting soil medium and vegetation. As stormwater passes down through the planting soil, the pollutants are filtered, absorbed, and biodegraded by the soil and the plant. Hydrodynamic separators are designed to treat stormwater runoff as it leaves a site. And as the discharge flows through the system, it allows for solid to settle out or float to the top, and the cleaner waters to be discharged to the receiving water. And this type of system works well in area where a solid was expected, such as public areas, container yard, and suitable for locations with relatively high groundwater levels. Filter devices. It is ideal for area where littering can be common, and it can also be fitted with different media to remove the targeted pollutants. All right, Harbor has instituted its stormwater management program to protect our coastal waters and to achieve compliance with the environmental regulations. And this is now a standard business practice for construction, and it should be followed by all parties involved. As part of the takeaway, please remember that all projects will be reviewed prior to start. Projects that of 1 acre or more must consider or include a post-construction BMP if feasible. Inspections can be a great tool to identifying problematic areas before resulting in X-related enforcement. And all parties should be familiar with construction document, Harbor's swamp requirement, City County Honolulu's BMP manual, and their stormwater BMP guide. Installing and maintaining proper BMPs and keep up the good housekeeping practices are worthwhile, and are really a small price to pay when it comes to stormwater compliance. All right, I think this should conclude the session for today. And empowered with this knowledge, and let's work together to safeguard our environment and to protect our harbor waters. And thank you for the steward of clean water.
Thank you, Joy, for your presentation. I believe we have a couple minutes, so we're going to open this for the Q&A portion of the session. So if anyone has any in the audience has any questions, please raise your hand and we'll give you a microphone. You can ask your question. And for those in Zoom, please type them in the Q&A section at this time.
I have 3 questions. Slide 17, you mentioned a SWIP or a BMP plan. Is that because some projects don't have a SWIP?
17.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you had SWIP, then you had in parentheses or BMP plan.
Yeah, that's because for some of the project, they're subject to NPDES NOIC permit requirement, and they're required to prepare what do we call the stormwater pollution prevention plan.
Okay, so
And
the
for-
reference to the BMP plan are for those that are less than an acre or don't require the NPDES permit, right?
Right,
Okay,
the
okay.
site-specific BMP plan would be for a project, they're usually a smaller scale.
Right.
Less than 1 acre, not subject to NPDES and OIC permit requirement.
In that same slide, you referenced both the city and highways construction BMP manuals. So are you saying either can be used? Not, because it said
Yes.
one applicable for city. But you didn't have that note for the other, for the highways construction BMP manual.
Well, the reason being is in our stormwater management plan, we do have the wordings include City County Honolulu, but we
Okay.
don't really have a highway. But through years of revealing of different project, and I noticed for some of the contractors, they just reference the BMP plans developed by highways.
Okay.
And upon further review, we think, yeah, as long as applicable, we shouldn't be just affixed to City County's manual.
Okay,
can
that makes a
also-
lot of sense.
Yeah.
And then you had a slide on the kiddie pools, slide 36, and it was damaged. Are you just stating that to make sure that they're properly maintained, but not to say that a contractor couldn't use the kiddie pools?
Well, depend on what kind of project you're doing. I mean, for smaller project, we do still seeing contractor using kiddie pools. But yeah, this definitely it's not an ideal containment to do the concrete washout.
Okay, so the point of the slide is to make sure you have the appropriate concrete washout container.
Containment, yes. Mhm.
And then my last question was on slide 25, you talked about paved surface repair. So does that also include just mill and fill and not impacting the underlying base course? Or are you talking, some sort of sealant or some localized repair?
When it comes to surface repair, we're assuming you're not digging any depths beyond the gravels, which is a base course.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, well, thank you again, Joe. That now concludes this session. Thank you all for attending. The next session will begin at 10:15. Additional refreshments have also been provided in the courtyard. And please be sure to visit the vendors in room 306 and in the Expo tab on Zoom events during the break. Mahalo, everyone.